Hi all. I hope everyone had a happy and safe 4th of July. And I say safe because this is what my family did. Joel, move. I don't always approve of these things, but you know, you gotta let them learn, right? I've got a little work to do in the greenhouse today, and I'm gonna get it done before it gets to be 100 degrees in here. So I finally have room because I've taken a bunch of stuff out, like all of the leftover cauliflower, the carrots, the beans, the broccoli, all of that is out. And so now I need to plant some peppers, which I know it seems kind of late, especially for zone 3, but because we're in the greenhouse, these peppers are going to grow into fall. First, I wanted to check on this fig and see if the spider mites are staying away. And it looks like they are. Last year I used neem oil, and it was a real struggle. I used it like every 3 days, and I kept them under control. But what I figured out is because they like it hot and dry, that if I take the hose and just kind of blast them off every few days, now I haven't seen any for, it's probably been 2 waterings, so like 6 days. So that's a good sign. That's not to say we don't have other spiders in here. This is a spider and frog haven. So this whole space here between these 2 trellises, this cauliflower, I thought it had bolted at first, but there is a little cauliflower in there, but it obviously got too hot for it, because now it's starting to just spread out and be done. So I have from this trellis to that trellis, and so I need to just go in and kind of get rid of some of the weeds. You can see I've got a couple of volunteer tomato plants back there that I don't think I'm gonna let grow. I don't know, we'll see. But I'm gonna clean this up and put some peppers in here. It's kind of amazing these things can stand up. I mean, that's a pretty big root system for a cauliflower, but it doesn't seem very big, does it? So I had originally made another video a couple of days ago about boundaries. Do you guys have boundaries? Where I was encouraging people to set your boundaries, express your boundaries, and enforce them. And while I believe in that, I support that. I was a little feisty in that video. Obviously someone had just crossed my boundary. But first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about boundaries. Have them, tell people about them, and enforce them. And the people who don't respect them are not your people. While I do really support having boundaries and expressing them and enforcing them, it's only half of the solution, right? And that was my first video. I was only thinking of myself. So the second half of the solution is to set an example, right? To lift people up, to take the high road, I guess you could say. Show people how you want to be treated. It's all about the golden rule, right? So, and I know it's hard to hear this, and I didn't want to talk about it at first, but please keep listening, because, and I realized this, that you're gonna feel better about yourself, regardless of how you feel about the person who crossed your boundary. You're gonna feel better about yourself by lifting others up and setting that example and being the bigger person. But dear God, enforce your boundaries. Don't be like me the people pleaser that can go years without expressing her boundaries. I haven't tested the soil in here, but I do know that we put compost on it, some fresh compost in the fall. So that makes me think it leans more toward the nitrogen side. So I'm gonna add some bone meal just because I haven't added anything to this soil other than the compost since it would be last spring, so over a year ago. And we've grown a lot in here over the winter. It is getting really hot in here, as you can see. I think I gotta turn the fan back on for a little while. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I have to leave the fan on. It's too hot in here. Actually it's 85. But my pepper situation is not ideal. But I just wanted to show you what I did wrong and what I'm gonna try anyway. So remember I talked about using these cow pots this spring? I don't think I'll ever use them again. They were just way too hard to keep dry or wet, or I either got them too wet or too dry, and this is all the growth I got. And this is probably, I don't know, 8 weeks. So because my thought was just, I didn't have a bunch of other pots, I was just going to pull them out of here, just to take the seedlings out and not plant it in the pot. But I think they're so small, I'm just going to leave them in the pot and cut off the one that doesn't do very well. So I'll come back and thin them out. So I don't know what I did wrong with these cow pots. I planted all of the tomatoes, and I didn't do the cucumbers, but I planted all the tomatoes in the cow pots. I mean, they're doing amazing. You can see, you know, they're all 5 feet tall. There must be a learning curve with these things, so I don't know if I'll try it again next year or not, but we're gonna put these in the ground. It's hard to get very deep in here just because there's that layer of gravel under there that I'm constantly picking rocks out of, but the key is to get the pot completely covered. So I made sure to completely cover the edge of the pot and then just kind of show as much of the pepper as I can. You know, am I crazy? Am I gonna get nothing out of this except a lesson learned? Speaking of lessons learned, I don't want to hear anybody judging me about the boys and the fireworks at the beginning of this video. You'll notice I was not in that video. No, but seriously, nobody was hurt. They were just the cheap Minnesota fireworks. We're somewhat new to having adult children. Our oldest is 21 and the middle is 19. And I am learning how every time I think there's going to be an easier phase of parenting, I'm so wrong. But, you know, and I think it's not that I'm parenting now, it's the backing off that's so hard. You know, God, there's so much to play in here. For 20 years, almost 20 years, you know, you make every appointment, you make every, you make plans, you make play dates, you make decisions for your kids for almost 20 years, and then all of a sudden we're just supposed to stop. And you may not always like the choices they make. In fact, it is guaranteed that you won't like a lot of the choices they make. Hence the fireworks. But I do think it's important. I think it's the most important to let them make those choices. If it turns out to be a mistake, be there for them, support them. And then they're more willing to put themselves out there, to keep trying, to have the confidence. I think I feel like that's my most important job as a parent of an adult child, is make them feel comfortable to keep making mistakes. Because if you're not making mistakes, you are not trying. I haven't actually grown peppers in the south bed before. I've always grown them in the north bed over there. So I was gonna try it this year. It gets really super sunny over here, but I have the shade cloth on, so I'm hopeful. All right, it's hard to see, but we have some peppers in the ground here. The red stakes are larger than the peppers. Got some shishitos. Those are even little tiny shishitos there. We've got the red habaneros. We've got cayenne back there. There's the serranos and the poblanos. Look at this. This is exciting. I think these are the Katrina or the Diva. I can't remember. Cucumbers. But look at that. It is almost cucumber season. And I did actually pick some cherry tomatoes yesterday. I'll show you. And they will all start to turn. I'll just bring them in and they'll all be red in a few days. There he is. Can you see him sitting there? I'm told I can put some copper, like a copper piece of metal in there, and control the algae. Have you done that? I think I'm gonna try it. But he's my little mosquito guard. All of the mosquito larvae that can sit in there, he snatches them right up. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. You know how there are frost tender people and things? I am a heat tender. I am not heat hardy. It's only 85 in there and I'm dying. But I hope you guys will set your boundaries and remember the best way to be able to enforce them is to express them to people, treat others as you want to be treated, and have a good day.